Hi students, welcome to lesson 7, research methods of sociology. This lesson we will discuss in two parts, part A and part B. In part A we will focus on Introduction. Sociology as a social science has been trying to develop its own method of study. Sociology has to face greater problems in evolving a satisfactory method in comparison with other social sciences. Man's social life is complex and multifaceted. It is a challenging task for sociologists to collect, analyze, synthesis and finally generalize social data which are too numerous, complex and elusive. After completion of this lesson, you will be able to understand the different methods of sociology. Methods of sociology. Sociology is objective study of social systems, social interactions and social institutions. Sociology uses different methods by which sociological facts can be collected, analyzed and put into proper form and certain conclusions drawn from them. As the social phenomenon is very complex and the data to be collected are very large, it is difficult to suggest which particular method should be employed by sociology. The sociologists have therefore been employing various methods for investigating social phenomenon. According to the American sociologist Chapin Stewart, there are three main methods of sociology. These are the historical method, the statistical method and fieldwork observation method. Charles L. Wood, American sociologist, has mentioned 5 methods: anthropological or comparative method, historical method, survey method, deductive method and philosophical method. Let us discuss some of the methods used in sociological research. The historical method. The historical method consists of study of events, processes and institutions of past civilizations for the purpose of finding the origins or antecedents of contemporary social life and thus of understanding its nature and working. History and sociology are so much interrelated that some of the sociologists like G.E. Howard regard history to be past sociology and sociology present history. It is evident that our present forms of social life, our customs or ways of living have their roots in the past and they can therefore be best explained when they are traced back to their sources. This can be possible only with the help of history. Social heritage is another name for history, but this method cannot help us in studying all the problems of sociology. The scope of sociology cannot be limited to the study of facts provided by history. The historical facts as contained in life histories, diaries, etc. may be revealing, but they have limited use for scientific investigation. They may not be able to answer all the questions that may be raised by a sociologist. Further, the historical facts also run the risk of not being studied objectively by the interpreters. The historical method therefore was being not wholly adequate and dependable for the study of social phenomenon. It requires the support of other methods for inquiry into field of sociology. The comparative method. The main task of sociology is to determine interrelations of social life. Sociology cannot make proper use of the experimental method and all its various stages of observation, classification, hypothesis, generalization, etc. with regard to a particular social phenomenon in a laboratory as the physical sciences can do. Sociologists can surely experiment in the laboratory of the social world by employing comparative method. This method involves comparisons of various kinds or groups of people in order to find out the differences as well as similarities in their ways of life and thus to find out clues to man's social behavior. The comparative method lies at the foundation of any sociological research that goes beyond description. It is fundamental to causal explanation that comparisons are made between instances where the thing to be explained is present and instances where it is absent. Comparisons can be made spatially and temporally. This method has been used by many sociologists to find out what elements in social life are functionally related. Sir Edward Burnett Tylor, British anthropologist, used this method in study of institutions connected with family among primitive people and was able to show that the practice of mother-in-law avoidance was related with custom of matrilocal residence. German sociologist Max Weber and French sociologist Emile Durkheim based their work most firmly on the comparative method. Weber was interested in the reasons for the emergence of capitalism in Western Europe. Emile Durkheim argued in the Rules of Sociological Method published in 1895 that all sociological research was in fact comparative since social phenomena are always held to be typical, representative or unique, all of which imply some sort of comparison. Durkheim used the method to study the change from what he called mechanical to organic solidarity. He compared the legal systems of different societies and showed that they varied according to how many laws were based on the principle of repression and how many were based on principle of restitution. The writers interested in social mobility have studied rates of social mobility in different societies. Seymour Martin Lipset and Reinhard Bendix in an article Social Mobility in Industrial Society published in 1959 looked at 9 different industrialized countries and found that rates of mobility were similar in all. This was put down to the fact that there was an increase in the number of high status jobs in industrial societies and increasing importance attached to achieved rather than ascribed status. However, the main difficulty in the application of this method is that social components have diverse meanings in different societies. The statistical method. The statistical method is used to measure social phenomena mathematically, that is with the help of figures. According to American sociologist Emory Bogardes, social statistics is mathematics applied to human facts. Howard Odum writes, statistics, which is the science of numbering and measuring phenomena objectively, is an essential core of research. Explaining the meaning of statistical method, James Smith, British sociologist, writes, statistical method is a term used to describe the process of interpreting facts by the use of statistics and statistical theory. It is obvious that statistics can be used with advantage where the problem can be expressed in quantitative terms, as in measuring the growth of population, the increase of birth and death rates, rise and fall in income, etc. Franklin Henry Giddings, American sociologist, was pioneer sociologist to emphasize the importance of statistics for sociological researches. Much of the research work in sociology is currently being carried on with the help of the data collected through statistics, for example, in studying population, migration, economic conditions, human ecology, etc. But the great difficulty in adopting the statistical method is that mostly the social problems are qualitative and not quantitative. This method can therefore be used in a limited sphere only. The case study method. A case study is a detailed study of a specific subject, such as a person, group, place, event, organization, or phenomenon. Case studies are commonly used in social, educational, clinical, and business research. A case study research design involves qualitative and quantitative methods. Case studies are good for describing, comparing, evaluating, and understanding different aspects of a research problem. Ernest Burgess, Canadian American sociologist, calls case study method as social microscope. A case study is an appropriate research design to gain concrete, contextual, in-depth knowledge about a specific real-world subject. It allows exploring the key characteristics, meanings, and implications of the case. Some of the techniques used in the method are interviews, questionnaires, life histories, FGDs or focus group discussions to have a deep insight into the problem. Thoroughness and in-depth study is the keystone of this method. Case study is used in different settings ranging from child guidance institutions, schools, colleges, medical and psychiatric settings, family welfare, institutions for the old and infirm, as well as handicapped, and also with people who suffer from addiction, character disorders, emotional disturbances, etc. Observation. Observation is a systematic viewing of specific phenomena in its proper setting for the specific purpose of gathering data for a particular study. Observation is used in exploratory research to gain insights into the problems which can be later tested by other techniques of data collection. It can also be used to verify and extend the generalizations or theories formed on the basis of other studies. Observation must be planned systematically and consists of planning the areas of observation, deciding the processes of observation, selecting the settings where observation is to be made, and deciding the type and structure of observation to be followed. Observation can be structured or unstructured, participant or non-participant in nature. In the process of observation, there are different sources of bias. Bias due to observer happens when the observer is influenced by his own opinion, attitude, and cultural values at the time of observing or recording or in making inferences from the observation. Bias due to the individuals being observed, whereby bias may take place when the awareness of the observation situation by the people being observed interferes with the naturalness of the events. They may not like to be observed or may not behave naturally. The accuracy of the observation method can be increased in different ways by use of aids like camera, tape recorder, use of checklist, and focus on the setting, place, occurrence of the events under observation, purpose of observation, types of behavior, and frequency or duration of a particular behavior. The selection and appointment of experienced observers and appointment of several observers is important for effective observation. Questionnaire and interview method. Questionnaire and interviews are very common and popular research tools. The questionnaire is a list of important and pertinent questions concerning a problem. It is sent to persons and associations concerned, requesting them to answer the questions to the best of their knowledge and ability. The object is to obtain knowledge about facts known to the informant but not to the investigator. From answers received to certain questions, predictions are made about social behavior. It is necessary that proper care should be taken in formulating questions. They should not be ambiguous, too many or too personal, nor too difficult to be answered by a man of average intelligence and common understanding. Questions can be open-ended or closed-ended. Open-ended questions give respondents opportunity to elaborate on their response. In closed-ended questions, the respondents have to respond from the options provided by the researcher. The questionnaire technique is being used all over the world to collect necessary data about a particular situation or problem. Interview is the process of talking in more purposive and systematic manner than our day-to-day talking with each other. Interview may be regarded as a systematic method by which a person enters more or less imaginatively into the life of a complete stranger. It is face-to-face interpersonal role situation in which one person, the interviewer, asks a person being interviewed, the respondent, questions designed to obtain answers pertinent to the purposes of the research problem. The two basic objectives of interview are discovery. It indicates gaining new knowledge, new consciousness or new insight of certain unexplored qualitative aspects of the problem, which is the primary objective of the interview. Interview provides with an additional qualitative description of the people, how they feel and why they do so. It enhances the understanding of sociological nature of facts. Measurement. It tries to measure the various aspects of socio-economic parameters. There is some kind of information which is virtually impossible to be obtained by any other means. The directness involved helps to check the distortion of the description by the respondents. The interview can modify the situation whenever necessary. The researcher can clear up a misunderstanding about a question and keep the respondent on the track of providing any essential information. Interview schedule is quantitative research method and in-depth interview is qualitative research method with more focus on gaining deeper insights. Many kinds of information can be obtained either by interview or by questionnaire. The questionnaire has the great advantage of anonymity, making for more truthful answers. It also serves to cut out uncontrolled personal influences and there is less likelihood of bias in the coding of replies. The interview is in general more flexible, since the same question can have different meanings to different people. The interviewer can remove such misunderstanding. He can probe for true replies and make ratings based on the whole of the subject's behavior. He can change the order of questions and prevent the subject looking over the whole list before answering. Experimental method. Experimental research is a study that strictly adheres to a scientific research design. It includes a hypothesis, a variable that can be manipulated by the researcher, and variables that can be measured, calculated, and compared. Most importantly, experimental research is completed in a controlled environment. The researcher collects data and results will either support or reject the hypothesis. This method of research is referred to a hypothesis testing or a deductive research method. Experimental research seeks to determine a relationship between two variables, the dependent variable and the independent variable. After completing an experimental research study, a correlation between a specific aspect of an entity and the variable being studied is either supported or rejected. Compared to natural sciences, the experiments in social sciences are different. Social sciences deal with human beings who differ from one another in number of ways, and thus experimental research is designed to assess the effects of particular variables on a phenomenon by keeping the other variables constant and controlled. The factor which is influenced by other factors is called a dependent variable, and other factors which influence it are known as independent variables. Two identical groups are selected, and these should be identical in terms of the characteristics of the phenomenon under study. For instance, in a farm productivity experiment, two plots of farmland with same soil composition, soil fertility, same size, same climate and same irrigation facility should be selected for study. Here, one of the groups is used as experimental group and the other as control group. Experimental group exposed to an experimental variable. Control group is not exposed to the experimental variable. The difference between the experimental and control groups outcomes attributed to the effect of experiment variables.